We are live from Studio TPS. This is the Tundra Process Solutions podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Beacock, longtime employee of Tundra Process Solutions, consistent employee of the month, if I might say so myself, and newly turned podcast host. I'm here with my co-host, Erik Allan. Erik, tell us about yourself. What are we doing today?
All right, I'm Erik Allan. I'm the director of the Tundra ACE Program and your co-host as well on the Tundra Podcast. And we launched this initiative to be a connection point, to connect to our customers, to connect to our community. As all of these changes are happening so rapidly, we decided to find new ways to make new connection points. In an era of social distancing, how can we get closer? And that's sort of the manifestation of this thought process. Mm-hmm. And today, we've got a very special guest on our first episode of the Tundra Podcast, the Chief Executive Officer of Tundra Process Solutions, the man at the helm of the ship, sailing through the storms, Mr. Iggy Domagalski. Iggy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, today is a changing time that is changing rapidly day by day. And that's actually the theme of this episode, is changing with changing times. And for everyone who might not be familiar with who Tundra is and what we're all about, how would you best describe what Tundra does?
Thanks for that, Erik, and thanks for the introduction, guys. Really appreciate being here. We are a Western Canadian distributor of diverse industrial process equipment for a whole bunch of different industries, including oil and gas, mining, forestry, municipality, and many others. And really, at the end of the day, our clients trust us to deliver the products and technologies that are crucial for them to build safe and efficient facilities. And internally, our mantra is to deliver wow service, whether that be to our clients or to each other, to our suppliers, or to our communities at large. So in a nutshell, that's who Tundra is.
Beautiful.
Hey, Iggy, so when we were talking about taking on this podcast, I told Iggy, I said these exact words: we're going to dig into the deepest parts of you and open you up and, find out what's inside. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is you are the coolest cucumber I know. In the 8 years that I've known you, I don't think I've seen you lose it, snap, hit anybody, yell, maybe even swear. I don't think I've ever heard you swear. We're facing some of the most challenging times that any of us have ever faced in our lifetime, probably right now. I know that there's tough decisions to be made in an organization like this. There's tough times. You have family stuff that you have to negotiate as well. How are you staying centered, and how are you staying at this level that most Zen masters, that's their apex they're trying to get to? I see you maintain this coolness and level-headedness. And what can you share about how you do that?
Thanks for the question, Jason. And yeah, I think I'm able to usually maintain a pretty cool head in stressful situations. But I've also gotten some comments from our management team, the people that I work closest with, that it's not always an asset, right? Sometimes sometimes they'd like to see my emotions a little bit more and like to see exactly what I'm thinking. So it can be a double-edged sword. But for the purposes of your question, I'll talk about how it can be a good thing and how I get there. And I think really it comes down to truly accepting what I can and can't control. And there's a lot of crazy things going on in this world right now, and most of them I can't control, and most of them none of us can control. And actually really getting your head around those things is important. And once those are out of the picture and you're not worried about those, then you can really focus on the task at hand, which is steering this ship we call Tundra in what is hopefully the right direction. And yeah, there's plenty of stresses. Maybe my kids wouldn't say that I'm the most relaxed person, although I try to be pretty nice around them too. And for sure, there's family things to negotiate, especially in an interesting time like this. But I am pretty lucky. I've got a pretty awesome, good support network at home, and a great friend support network too. And then some other people that I lean on for business advice. So I've got a few key people that I can go to, that I can confide in, and really get their advice. And there's that saying that, that it's lonely at the top, and it can be, but it doesn't have to be. And so if you choose to go out and have some great mentors and open up those relationships with some colleagues and other people that you can trust, then it doesn't have to be lonely. It can be a great place where you can get all the input and all the advice that you need in order to make some sometimes tough decisions. But yeah, that's those are some of the things that keep me centered. Also, I like to meditate and run, and those things definitely help. And I like music too, so I find when you're meditating or running or playing music, you're really in the moment, and you have a hard time thinking about things outside of that. And I know that you two hosts here, you have some of that too. Erik, you're into martial arts, and that's a fully consuming activity. And Jason, you're really into music, and that's a fully consuming activity. So when you're doing those, there's not much else you can be thinking about.
Absolutely.
So true. Iggy, you mentioned mentors, and I actually heard recently a cool concept of having a personal board of directors, those people that you do confide in. Can you maybe talk about how much stock you put in your mentors, and how helpful has that been for over these years?
That's a good question. And there is that concept of the personal board of directors. But I think if you're doing that, you have to be careful about how you label it. If somebody came to you and said, hey, I'm building a personal board of directors, do you want to be on it? It can be a bit of a weird conversation. One, it sounds like a big commitment, so I think a lot of people might shy away from it initially. So I would say that I do have a personal board of directors, but none of those people that are on it know that they're on it. if that makes sense. So I just have people that I trust, and I think mentor relationships just have to be built naturally. We've tried to almost force mentor relationships, and very rarely does it work. You can suggest them and allow them to flourish, but they have to form naturally. So for me personally, I have a chairman that I report to, that I've worked with for, it's coming on 20 years. So he's my main business mentor that I go to when I have questions about things. We have a really strong management team, and I lean on all of them, and some of them more than others, on challenging business decisions. And then I have a few really key close friends that I rely on, that I'll call, and when they have business questions, or hey, I'm at this fork in the road, what do I do? They ask me those questions, and I'll run some of those questions by them when I'm having a hard time with the decision. And if it's a really tough decision, I'll just reach out to 3 or 4 people individually on a phone call. It's nothing too formal, but get their advice, and then make the best decision that I can with the information that I have at the time.
I just want to dig into something that you said about finding that mentor, and the fact that we tried throughout Tundra's history, there's a couple times to match people up.
Yeah.
What advice can you give somebody that, for me, I'm 42 years old now. I didn't ever see the value in mentorship, but I've recently kind of discovered that, and how important it can be, essentially learning from other people's mistakes and their journey through life. And, it was when I started looking for a mentor, it was difficult for me. I didn't know how to go about it. What advice can you give people to maybe search out those mentors that are a connection? Because I think like a big part of it is having that connection with them, right?
Yeah. So that is a really, really great question. How do you actually go and do it? And it's tricky, right? Like, if you're looking for a mentor, I'm assuming that you would, if you're in a business kind of place, you would want somebody who's been successful in business, or who is successful in business. And those people generally are busy. Mm-hmm. So they don't necessarily have time to go spend time with new people in their life. They already have a group of friends. They have their network that they spend time with. So how do you convince someone who's already busy and successful to spend time with you? And unless you get really lucky and you kind of catch someone just on the tail end of maybe they had a company and they sold it and they retired, and all of a sudden they have all this spare time, and you happen to catch them just at that perfect moment when they say, oh, okay, all of a sudden I have 30 more hours a week and I'm looking to transfer some knowledge to some younger people. Unless you're able to get that moment, mm-hmm. then it's my belief that you have to have some value to add to the equation too, that it can't be a one-way street. It has to be two-way. And if you're a younger person, like really younger, and you're much more tech savvy, I've seen great relationships form in those ways where you get, the younger person gets the benefit of the older person's experience, their contact network, their experience in seeing different social situations unfold, and then the older person leans on the younger person for how do I engage with my millennial staff? I have no idea how to do that, and getting information on what is TikTok, right? what even is that, and let alone how does it work, and understanding that that's a real thing that their younger generation is dealing with, or maybe how to deal with younger folks who don't always work in the office, who are more used to a gig economy, or who are just used to working outside of the office. So there has to be value, and that value can come in a whole bunch of forms, right?
What about dry wit and good looks?
It could be dry wit and good looks, or it could be something as simple as a skill that you have that somebody else is maybe wanting to learn, right? Like we talk about music, if you're a musician and a business guy and younger, and there's an older person who's just picking up a guitar for the first time, maybe the value that you bring to that relationship as a younger perspective, plus I can teach you a few chords on the guitar. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Cool.
Beautiful. Well, talking about leveraging and leaning on the people that we rely on as mentors, I want to talk a little bit about the crazy times that we're going through and the choppy waters that every business is currently navigating. Iggy, can you talk about some of the abrupt changes that you saw, and how did you as an executive at Tundra respond?
Well, as I look at this situation, let's talk about COVID-19, because the oil price wars come and go, but this COVID-19 pandemic is something that you could live 5 lifetimes and never see, and it's truly very unique. Whereas price wars they've been happening since oil has been invented. So some of the unique things that we saw is some businesses just going out of business right away, and I thank our lucky stars that we're in the business that we are, that we're not one of those. I mean, if some retail, restaurants, movie kind of businesses, they went down 90% in the first couple of weeks. Some laid off 100% of their staff and just shut down, and others are already out of business. They just don't know it yet. So I think we're really lucky that we have a business where we have a backlog of orders. So we just have a little bit more runway and a little bit more flexibility. But I think the things that we've been seeing is what everyone else has been seeing. And the first is, how do you keep people safe? And we're pretty lucky in Canada that our healthcare system we're well prepared for this, better than the US, better than most countries. And the world, there's a lot of people dying out there, and we are just not seeing that much of that in Canada. So I think we're lucky there. So that was the first challenge, how to keep people safe. And there's been every legal company and that's been really helping for free usually to get the information out there. So there's been lots of great resources on how to do that and how to get your people home that can be at home and working from home. And that was really interesting. When we got people working from home, we started these 8 a.m. stand-up meetings. First day, we said, we're working from home, stand-up meetings, they have to be on video. And initially we got some pushback from that. And really we wanted to do that. First, people need to get dressed in the morning. That has to happen. Maybe you don't need to put on
to here anyway.
Yeah, maybe you don't need to put on pants, but you need to, comb your hair.
I'm hoping my dog doesn't come to the door and want in while we're on this, because I'm going to have to walk that way and I might have to pause my camera for.
But I think we needed to be, people are in a new environment. They're not used to working at home, and we wanted to give as much normalcy as we could. And normalcy is, when you go to the office, you do put on clothes and you do comb your hair. And so we wanted to have some of that happen right away. And the nice thing that I noticed from that is immediately people picked up on the technology. Like within a day, we were probably at 80% capacity. And within that first week, we were nearly at 100% capacity and remained there, using the Zoom and WhatsApp and all the other tools that we have at our disposal. And I still log on to some conference calls now. We are a month into this thing almost. Many people have been working from home a month, and I still log into video conferences where people don't turn on their camera.
Right.
And that leads me to believe that they're just not comfortable with the technology yet, even after a month. And our people were comfortable within a couple of days. So that was really cool. And I think that's going to have some lasting impacts. And then just dealing with the downturn, right? Like there's when the economy stops, when airplanes stop flying, people stop driving, people stop going out and doing anything, there's less demand for everything. And then there's less jobs, and inevitably come the layoffs and the shorter work weeks. And we haven't been immune to that either. So, that a whole extra layer of business management on top of already running a business is doing all of those things, which has been very time consuming and very important to do to keep the company alive and healthy, but super, super time consuming and taking away from the main things, which is driving value for your customers, which we really, that's the third piece of this is how do you continue to drive value for your clients in a way where, we're a very face-to-face person company and we can't go see anyone face-to-face, but we're really making do. Our people are doing some unique things. We're ordering skip the dishes together and having meals together. We're doing webinars, training every day online, and I think those things are really going a long distance. And this podcast, when I first heard about this podcast, I mean this was not my idea, this podcast, and I think it's a wonderful idea. But it was great to see that in times of adversity, you two came up with this idea, which I think is a fantastic idea. And our salespeople and all our other people are coming up with great ideas to better engage our factory partners and better engage our clients. So it really makes me feel hopeful when the quality of our people really shines in a time like this, and is the new ideas that are coming up to the surface here because of challenging times have been exceptional. And so that makes me hopeful and happy.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question, because I really want to talk about remote work. I think we could probably do an hour-long podcast on, the technologies around remote work. But what I really want to understand, and this is something you brought up in the last address to the company, which Iggy is doing by video every single day, which is fantastic to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on in the organizations, the decisions that are being made. But I want to talk about remote work. I'm super interested in this. I've spent a good part of my career working remotely. I really believe in the technology's ability to connect us in meaningful ways. Like right now, we're not quite in the room, but I mean, it's a good enough connection where I can have a decent conversation with you both and feel somewhat connected to you personally. What do you see as the future of that? You'd mentioned it on your last address that you would potentially look at that for Tundra as employees working remotely, maybe for a couple days a week. What would an organization need to see? And by organization, I say you, or what can people track now or plan for if they want to situate themselves in this scenario in the future when things do open up again? What can we say to our employees as, I would like to stay home. What do you need to see for me to be able to do that?
Yeah. The working from home question is a really interesting one. And, if I'm honest with myself, I was never really a big supporter of working from home. I think everyone in the world is just a product of their own experiences, and me, like anyone else, is no different. And I had always had challenges working from home. And I think it was because I never really set aside a great space to do it. Whenever I was working from home, I'd crack open my little laptop on the kitchen table or a little breakfast nook or something, or on the couch or in the living room. And that's where I would do it. And I just never found it being particularly productive, right? Like kids running around, and it's distracting, and maybe the TV's on, and it just wasn't productive. And so my belief was that, well, if I'm not productive working at home, how can anyone else be productive working at home? And so for that reason, I was pretty against it. And I know over the course of my career, I've even made decisions where, we had people that had to work from home partially, and we opted not to hire them because not just me, but our whole management team really didn't believe in this working from home idea. And now we've been forced to do it, and I've you can see here in this video, if you're watching this on video, is we have a spare bedroom that's got a Murphy bed over here, and so we put that up, and I set up a little desk in here, and it's great, and I'm super productive here. So I'm really actually enjoying working from home because I can be extremely productive. You take out the commutes, you take out a lot of downtown parking and things that I don't love downtown parking. Nobody likes that. And that's why I've taken that out, taken a commute out, and I can be super effective here. Mm-hmm. So as personally, I'm seeing how effective that is, and personally, I'm also seeing how effective video calling is. And you mentioned that here, Jason. You know, I never really believed how effective video calling would be. And I see on a call like here, there's 3 of us on the call. I can see both of your faces. I feel connected to you, and it's great. But where I really notice it is when I'm on a call with, say, 6 or 7 people, and one of those 2 people have a black screen because their camera's not on. Yeah. And that makes me, just illustrates the difference of how much more connected you are to the people that you see on video, and the people that have the black boxes on the screen, you feel miles further apart from them. Yeah.
Well, people want to know that you're paying attention when you're having that conversation too, and that you're not talking to a black screen. I mean, it's interesting when I'm talking on the phone now, it seems almost more foreign because we do so many meetings on Zoom nowadays. And I mean, I can feel connected to individuals on a video connection. It's really cool that we're able to do that. So.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And just so the power of that video connection, you know, so that's been another lesson for me, that the video conferencing it's not 100% as good as in person, but for sure 80%, maybe even 90%. Mm-hmm. You can get the body language, and you can see if they're rolling their eyes and they're paying attention. Right. So I think that's been really powerful. And then for me personally, also the power of recorded video. And Jason, as you mentioned, I've been communicating with our team 3 times a week through a recorded video. And for probably a year or maybe even more before that, our marketing team was always bugging me to, hey, why don't you record yourself talking on a video to the staff and to communicate whatever message you're communicating, because usually I would communicate through company-wide emails, and those are great, but everyone gets a lot of emails, and not everyone loves reading emails, but I just didn't believe it, so I just didn't do it. And until this crisis came along, I said, okay, well, now is the time to really start doing that, to try giving it a go. And I could see on YouTube how many people in our company are actually opening that video, and it's close to half that are watching it, which is great. Mm-hmm. So that tells me
where's that other half? Where are you right now? We're watching you.
and I don't know who they are, but I know that half of the people in our company, consistently, each video that I put out, about half the company is watching it, which leads me to believe that they prefer that medium over a written medium. Right. And so I'll continue to do that. So those are 3 things that I've learned personally, that working from home can really have benefits, and I can be good at it, so I think anyone else can be. The power of the video conference, and then the power of recorded video to communicate your message. And those things, I think a lot of people that are in leadership roles, or even in not leadership roles, are just realizing that those things are staying. I think a lot of those things will stay. I think business travel will be permanently impaired. The guy or gal that was going down to Houston twice a month, maybe they only need to go down there quarterly. Right. There's nothing really that replaces the evening whining and dining and doing those kind of fun things, or going to a ball game together. But when I go to Houston, and I go down there occasionally, if I get in 3 meetings in a day, that's a record day, just because of all the travel through Houston, and plus a day down there and a day back in the hotels, where I could probably get in 8 meetings in Houston in one day on a video conference out of the comfort of my bedroom beside the Murphy bed over here. And I think that's likely what I would do, and then go down for those really important in-person ones where I do need to head out to a ball game or have that long in-person over dinner interaction.
It's really cool to see all the different efficiencies that are coming out of this. Mm-hmm. Almost, it is the silver lining of the storm that got thrown our way, is that it's washing away a lot of inefficiencies, because now we're forced to be efficient. We don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Adapt or die.
So I do look forward to that. I do look forward to the more efficiencies in our business. And Jason, you initially asked, how would people at Tundra or other companies go about working from home when this is done? I still believe that coming into the office is important. You know, the real water cooler talk, you can try to have water cooler talk over Zoom, and I think we're doing a reasonable job at it on Friday afternoons. A lot of groups in our company, and other times too, get into their little pods of 4 or 6 people, and they'll have a glass of wine and talk about the week and have some water cooler talk. But there is just something about the unplanned collisions that happen in an office. Mm-hmm. Every collision that you have on Zoom is planned. The ones that are unplanned, where you just go up to someone and talk to someone, those are important. And I still do really think face-to-face is important. Mm-hmm. So for a company like Tundra, I think going fully remote is not in the cards.
But we should just set up our Zoom network so that you can remotely turn somebody's camera on anytime you want. And then it pops up to Zoom. Hey!
And see what they're up to. Yeah,
see what they're up to.
But I think it'll come down to an individual basis. And if you have somebody who's working in whatever kind of role, and they have a chat with their direct leader and say, hey, you know what, I was working pretty effectively from home 5 days a week. I don't want to work from home 5 days a week. But you know what, if I could stay home Tuesdays and Wednesdays and commute to the office 3 days a week, and then work from home 2 days a week, I think that would be, you know, if that could make a meaningful difference in people's personal lives to cut out that commute, especially people that have to commute a far distance, that would be great. I think as a company, it would allow our people to be more effective. I think it would probably also increase the geography from which you could hire. People that might normally have an hour commute each way would say, there's no way I'm doing that 5 times a week, but maybe I would do it 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. And so you've opened up your geography a little bit for really great talent that you could hire for. And if it makes people happier, then I would definitely be all for that. So I think it's here to stay. And as I look around at commercial and office real estate, we don't have a significant office downtown, but I think of, you know, big engineering companies or oil companies that have, let's say they have 10 floors of a downtown building and they're full, and then they have a conversation with their staff and say, you know, what do you guys think about sharing a desk? Mm-hmm. And you know, as a sacrifice for you having to share a desk and the inconveniences that come around that, as a reward, you'll get to work from home 2 days a week or 3 days a week and avoid that commute. And now as a business, you've trimmed down from 10 floors downtown building to 5 floors and saved yourself a massive amount of money while making your staff potentially more efficient and while making them happier because they don't have to commute. And their only sacrifice is that when they get to the office, there's a picture of their family and there's a picture of their coworker's family and there's 2 coffee mugs, right? So that's, you know, I think that would be quite a reasonable sacrifice to avoid a couple of days of commute a week. Mm-hmm. So I think it's here to stay, and I think it'll be all kind of one-off situations and making sure that people are delivering value. And you know, although they're not in the office, I think their performance would be scrutinized more, and people that are hiding would be showcased a little bit quicker because. Mm-hmm. There will be more of a focus on the specific output and the results as opposed to just, oh, hey, he or she is a really good guy or gal because they get into the office at 7 o'clock every morning. It'll be more focused on the results and not the behavior of being in the office for X number of hours.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Iggy, would you mind talking? I just love that there is so many creative ideas that have come out throughout Tundra as an organization. I mean, we've seen awesome concepts pop up through a time where, hey, let's just try this. Could you maybe talk about some of what you've seen? Some of our sales guys get creative, some of the internal employees get creative. Could you maybe talk about what you've seen that's working that other businesses might be able to adopt?
Sure. That's a great question, Eric. Generally, through various crises, I think we've come out stronger on the other end. And I think back to 08, 09, we were a pretty small company then. We were about 30 or so people, and things were bad. I mean, that was the worldwide financial crisis. And at that time, when things were falling apart, we had an opportunity to take on a great new product line called Toshiba, which we had never really heard too much about and didn't know a lot about, but we had the opportunity to take that on. And we went to our bank and said, hey, I know things are falling apart. The world's terrible, but we want to go into more debt and we want to take on this product line. We're currently at 30 people and we want to grow to 45 people, which was, 50% growth. That was massive for us at the time, especially in a massive downturn. And when we came out of that, I mean, Toshiba is now our largest product line and our most successful division. So that's been a huge win in this most recent oil crisis, which you could argue is still going on, but has just been reinvigorated with this new price war. We shifted our business to going after more run rate products, and we picked up the product line Ferris and another product line called MSA for fire and gas detection. And those have been huge successes. And so in the downturns, I've actually found that's where some of our biggest future successes have come from. And I hope that happens in this downturn as well, that some great opportunities show their face and we're able to capitalize on them and then come out of this thing even stronger. So generally, the answer to the question is we've taken on just big, cool new initiatives and then turn those into successful business units. But some of the cool, neat stories that have come out of these downtimes, one is our ACE program that you run, Erik. That came out of a time of the bottom of the previous oil cycle, and we wanted to give back to the community and have a place where entrepreneurs could get their cool energy technologies boosted and hypercharged, and you created that program. And along with the help of a bunch of other people, right? So that was a really cool thing that happened. This podcast is a cool thing that's coming out of here, and just the way that our people are engaging with the outside world, I think, has been great. One of our sales guys called up one of our customers and said, "Hey, do you want to go for a beer?" And obviously, you can't go for a beer in this time, but he dropped off a 6-pack of beer and put a little Tundra toque on it and a little card and dropped it on the guy's doorstep and said, "Hey, let's have a 5 o'clock beer on Friday." And they both cracked a beer over Zoom and had a good conversation and caught up. So I think those personal touches are important. It's in times like this, especially when things are less personal, it's over video instead of in person. I think we can really do a lot to make those nice personal touches with people, and that's a neat campaign that we have coming up here actually with the soap, which is all kind of linking all these things together. So within our ACE program that we use to help accelerate new technologies, one of those technologies that's in the program is a company called CleanO2, and CleanO2 essentially makes soap out of greenhouse gases, which there's a big long process in the middle, but that's what they do. They make cool soap out of greenhouse gases. And what is more relevant in a time of washing your hands than soap? So we're doing a cool campaign to send out free soap with no strings attached to people to make sure that they're keeping their hands clean and keeping everyone healthy and stopping the spread of this virus. And then at the same time, supporting a cool, small little startup business, which is something that we should all be doing. And then also at the same time doing something that's good for the environment. So
and if you want to know about that business, you put your name in the link below here and ask Erik all about it. It's a really cool technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we're mailing these to home addresses, and again, no strings attached. We just want people to wash their hands, and then we're supporting this cool local business during what is a challenging time for them and everybody else.
Right. So as we come to the close of our first episode here, I want to ask you, what do you think is going to be your favorite lasting effect of lasting change throughout this process that we're in right now that'll stick with humanity, that might stick with our business, might stick with you personally? What do you think is one of those really cool things that we're learning right now?
Good. That's a good question. I think on the business side, the thing that will stick is the technology piece. This has forced the world to figure out Zoom and Skype and Microsoft Teams. It's just forced everyone to figure it out well. And I even think back to January and February. Every now and then we'd try to have a Zoom call or a Skype call. It was always a disaster. Right? The first 15 minutes is, "Oh, you're echoing. I can't hear you. Did you press the right button? Have you figured out how to use your camera?" And it was always a disaster. And then oftentimes it just, "Okay, I'll just screw it. Just leave the video camera up and we'll figure it out." And the whole thing's echoey, and it was just terrible, right? But now we figured it out. With the call is at 1 p.m. and by 1:01 you're rolling. So I think we figured that out, and just the fact that we've figured out the technology well will allow for more remote working and less having to travel. I think that will stick from this thing, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
What I hope sticks from this thing, and I don't know that it will, is, you know, the saying that Winston Churchill said. He says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And I know I have a list of things that I want to do, and everyone's got a list of things that they want to do. For some people, it's learn a new language. For some people, it's be able to do 100 push-ups in a row, or maybe you've been wanting to implement this thing in your business forever, but just haven't had the time. Maybe it's rekindling that relationship with your kid that's gone totally sideways. Maybe it's getting a dog. Maybe it's learning to play the guitar. I don't know what it is, but everyone's got their list of things that they would like to do. And, you know, for folks that are laid off, I know it's tough going for them right now. But they certainly have a lot of time to take up any of those things. And we do have a great safety net in our government system, just from giving people some money, and also giving a lot of free training. So there's an opportunity to retool and do whatever it is that you always wanted to do. And for those of us that are lucky enough to still have our jobs, I mean, we still have more time as well, right? Like I'm not going out anywhere. There's nowhere to go on the weekends. Anyone that has kids, that when their weekends are usually taken up with lugging them around to hockey or volleyball, all of that's gone. People just have more time. And I really hope the lasting effect is that people use that time to take up those things that they've really always wanted to do. And when this thing turns around and people come back to work, that they're now living a more fulfilled life because they can speak that language, or they now do meditation or yoga, or they can play that instrument, or they've implemented that thing they've wanted to implement in their life. So that's what I hope happens.
Just do it, folks. The message from Iggy Domagalski, just do it. Get out there, pick up that thing you've been waiting forever to do, and just do it. I think that's a good message.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's like
great spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, great spot to leave off. I think this was super valuable, and I can't wait to get this out there and share it with everyone. For all of you listening, be sure to subscribe on all the social channels. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're going to be putting this everywhere, and we cannot wait to launch the next episode. So we will see you all then. Iggy, thank you so much for dropping the knowledge bombs. Jason, co-host extraordinaire. Love it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.